Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto starts training with Jiraiya before the academy, and learns Toad Sage Mode Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. As Naruto walked down the streets with his head down, he could hear many jeers and insults being thrown at him, along with several projectiles. "Get out of here, demon brat!" yelled one of the store owners. "Someone should teach you some manners. Showing your face here is just shameful," said a female civilian. "A boy like that would never have any manners, dear," said her husband, looking at Naruto with disgust. Naruto didn't even flinch at these comments. He had heard it all before. Then he felt something smashed into his face. He looked down and saw a broken eggshell and some yolk, and realized that he was being attacked. He bolted, and a crowd formed behind him. Although this wasn't new either, this was the part he hated. The villagers chucked anything they could find at him. Rocks, sticks, and even the occasional dead rat were sent flying past Naruto, who just ran faster. And then he froze. A man with long black hair stood in front of him wearing some standard shinobi pants and a Junin jacket, and both his eyes were looking at him in a glare. "I won't let you hurt anyone else, demon. You killed too many people, and it ends here," he roared angrily. Naruto didn't have any idea what he was talking about. The man moved his hands so fast that Naruto could only see blurs. The man's hand came down and there was a kunai in his hand. Naruto started to run away from the man as fast as he could. He knew what people like this man were called, for he had heard the word many times before. Ninja. Naruto had never met one before, but this was not the way he had thought he would. Jiraiya was coming from outside the village, coming from meeting with all his different spies over the past years. Since his student died 10 years ago, he only came to the village every time he had something to report to his sensei in person. He regretted the fact that he couldn't be there for his sensei in his roughest of times. He came back a few years ago hoping to adopt his student's son, but the old council people wouldn't let him, not wanting him to train the boy. This time he wanted to take the boy with him again, and if they wouldn't take him away he would train the boy here for a year before he had to go outside the village again. The sky was dark and cloudy, looked like it was going to start pouring anytime now. Jiraiya made it to the gate of the village and handed the two guards his pass to enter the village. He walked in the village and was heading toward the Hokage tower to see his sensei when he heard a bunch of people screaming, "Get him!" He walked toward where the noise was and saw a bunch of civilians, genins, and chunins running after a little boy. He took a look closer and saw who that little boy, and he just lost his mind. He ran toward the group at full speed hoping to make it before they harmed his sensei's only son. The group saw a man with long white hair running toward them with inhuman speed, so they started cheering thinking that the old man was running to kill the demon with them. Jiraiya made it to the group and he immediately killed the 5 chunins of the before, releasing a killing intent that had everybody around on their knees. The third was in his office when he felt the killing intent. He started sweating knowing that Jiraiya was in the village and he wasn't happy about something. Jiraiya looked at the civilians on the ground and then looked at the young boy who was on the ground fearing for his life. "Does this look like a demon to you?" yelled Jiraiya, taking out some kunais pointing at the young 10 years old Naruto on the ground, but nobody answered him. "Answer me, does he look like a demon to you?" he yelled again, walking toward the group, but still no one answered. "Then why the hell were you demons trying to kill him?" he yelled, walking back toward Naruto. "He killed our hero," yelled one of the civilians on the ground. "Don't you dare call my student your hero, because if he was really your hero you would respect his wish of seeing this young boy as a hero for holding that thing," yelled Jiraiya, focusing the killing intent only on the man. "Are you all right, Gaki?" asked Jiraiya, smiling at the crying young boy. "Yes, thank you, old man," said Naruto, wiping some of tears flowing down his cheeks. "The name's Jiraiya Gaki," said Jiraiya, ruffling the boy's yellow hair. "Let's go pay a little visit to the Hokage now, huh?" Jiraiya said with a smile. "Gigi, I don't want the old man to see me like this," said Naruto trying to clean his clothes. Why is that? Asked Jiraiya raising an eyebrow. Because he's going to ask me what happened and I don't want him to worry about me, answered Naruto looking at the old man. Let's go, said Jiraiya smiling at the young boy. Jiraiya was now walking toward the Hokage tower with Naruto besides him. He looked around and saw all the dirty looks that were being sent toward the young boy. Jiraiya was getting angrier by the second when he saw how the people treated the young boy. He walked inside the tower without even looking at the secretary and walked straight in the office. Sarutobi was getting ready for what was about to happen since he saw what Jiraiya was mad about with his crystal ball. Jiraiya told Naruto to wait outside while he had a word with Sarutobi for a moment. What the hell, sensei? I come back and the kid was about to get killed by a group of shinobis and civilians, yelled Jiraiya looking at the old man. What? You wouldn't happen to know their faces, right? Asked Sarutobi softly, calling in 3 of his Anbu members. I killed the 5 Chunin that was in the group and the rest is on the grung in the middle of the streets, said Jiraiya smiling at the old man. The Anbus immediately went to find the rest of the group that was trying to kill the young boy. So how long you here for? Asked Sarutobi looking his former student. About a year, before I have to check on my spy network, said Jiraiya still looking at the old man angrily. What do you plan to do with Naruto? Asked Sarutobi smiling at his student. Train him and look after him. I can't believe Minato trusted these fools with his only son, said Jiraiya angry at the last part. They'll see, I'll turn him into a legend, yelled Jiraiya striking a pose. Sarutobi sweat dropped at the pose. Where is Naruto? Asked the old Hokage looking at his student. Hey Gaki, come in here, Jiraiya called Naruto in the office. The yellow head ran in the office and jumped on Sarutobi's lap. Okay, where do you live, Naruto? Asked Jiraiya looking at the young version of his late student. In the orphanage, of course, said Sarutobi looking at Naruto, who just put his head down. Gramps, they kicked me out of the orphanage 2 weeks ago. I've been living in the forest since then, said Naruto crying. What? Yelled Sarutobi and Jiraiya at the same time with their killing intent rising through the roof, which had everybody 5 blocks from the Hokage tower frozen. They did what? Yelled Sarutobi looking at the young boy angry. Bear, please take whoever is in charge of the orphanage to Ibiki for me, said Sarutobi to the masked man in front of him. Hi, Hokage-sama, said the Anbu member disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Sensei, please give me the keys, I'll leave the rest to you, said Jiraiya looking at the old man. Jiraiya walked out of the office with Naruto following him close behind him. They walked for a few minutes until they made it to a big compound next to the Hyuga compound. Jiraiya opened the big gates and they walked in. The inside looked like a little village itself with a big house in the front and a bunch of other houses not as big as the main one down the street. There was some training grounds in the back of the compound, but they were going to use them the next day. Jiraiya and Naruto walked inside the main house and it was filled with dirt and dust from 10 years without any cleaning. Jiraiya decided that they would clean it the next day since it was really getting late for that. Jiraiya went to sleep inside the main house for the night, but he had his own house in the compound which he used to use when Minato was still alive. The next day, Naruto woke up and took a shower with some hot water for a change, since when he was in the orphanage they used to turn off the hot water when it was time for him to bathe. Jiraiya was still in bed when woke up, but when Naruto finished taking a shower. Jiraiya walked down the stairs and saw Naruto with an orange jumpsuit on ready to go to school. He walked up and stood behind him looking at the jumpsuit. Why do you wear this? Asked Jiraiya looking at the young kid. That's all the store owner would sell me, said Naruto looking down. Jiraiya looked at his again and took out something from his scroll. Take your shirt off, Gaki, said Jiraiya looking at the boy. Naruto took off his jacket and Jiraiya looked at his body laughing. Do you ever work out, Gaki? Said Jiraiya laughing. No, said Naruto looking at the man. Jiraiya put a seal on his chest, looked at him. What is this? Asked Naruto looking at the man. It's a gravity seal, It's meant to make you stronger and faster, said Jiraiya looking at his godson smiling. Naruto started walking but he felt his body heavy as fuck so he couldn't move like he normally did. My body feels heavier than usual, said Naruto confused. You'll get used to it, now hurry up and get to school. Don't take shit from anyone, said Jiraiya walking back upstairs. Don't tell anyone about me or the gravity seal, said Jiraiya looking at the spiky head kid. Naruto walked out the compound walking slowly toward the ramen stand before going to the academy. Naruto made it to the ramen shop in about 5 minutes when it usually took him 2 minutes to get there. Along the way the villagers were glaring at him calling him names so he started trying to walk faster to get used to the weights faster. Naruto ran to the academy as fast as he could but he was still 10 minutes late. He opened the door to his class and saw everybody laughing at him. Naruto, you're late, yelled Iruka looking at the young boy. It's not my fault, said Naruto going to the back of the class where Shikamaru, Choji and Kiba sat. He walked by Sasuke's desk and Sakura put one leg out and tripped him making everyone laugh at the boy. He made it to the back of the class and sat down beside Shikamaru who was sleeping and Choji who was eating his chips loudly. He tried to pay attention to the class but it was getting very boring to him. So like Shikamaru he fell asleep as soon as he did. Iruka walked up to their desk and woke them up with his scary head jutsu. Naruto woke up and Shikamaru did the same so they started talking about the class. It was time for the taijutsu and throwing practice outside. Naruto, you will go up against Sakura in the taijutsu practice, smirked Mizuki. I don't want to fight Sakura, I love her, thought Naruto. Cha, easy win, yelled Sakura looking at Sasuke with hearts in her eyes. Sakura got in the academy style and Naruto got in the style that Mizuki taught him and just stood there waiting for Sakura to attack him. He still couldn't move at his usual speed since he was carrying half his weight in the seal. Mizuki saw that Naruto got in the style that he taught him and was laughing even though he didn't let anyone see him laughing. Go, said Mizuki smirking at the yellow head. Sakura ran toward him with a pretty pathetic speed and punched him in the nose getting the head start. Naruto held his now bleeding nose though it was not easy for him to even move his hand, since Naruto couldn't really move all that fast yet. That's for annoying me asking me to go out with you, said Sakura punching him in the face once again. He fell to the ground, but Sakura-chan, what did I ever do to you? Said Naruto looking at the girl and Sakura kicked him while he was on the ground. He tried to move out the way but with no success, she kept punching him in the face and his face started to get swollen. Naruto got up and tried to punch her but he still couldn't move his muscle all that good, so she punched him again and he fell to the ground once again. Naruto got up and continued to fight even though he couldn't attack or defend himself from the assault. That's for not respecting Sasuke-kun, yelled Sakura before she kicked him in the stomach. She was about to continue her assault but Iruka stopped the match. Winner Haruno Sakura, said Iruka raising the girl's hand and all the guys started laughing at Naruto and so did the girls. Naruto, why can't you move? Asked Iruka looking at the blonde. I can't tell you Iruka-sensei, said Naruto getting up from the ground. Why not? Asked Iruka looking at the boy. I just can't. Leave it at that, said Naruto walking away from the man. The class went back inside with Naruto staying back. As soon as everyone went back inside he left and went home. He walked down the streets with his body all bruised up and the people were cheering seeing him hurt like that. He wanted to get home faster but the gravitation seal was slowing him down, so he had to listen to every insult said to him and everything that they threw at him he had to take it since his body was so heavy. Where is Naruto? Asked Iruka looking around the class. I kicked his butt so he left the academy for good, laughed Sakura and the whole class started laughing except for Hinata, Shikamaru, and Choji. Something is wrong with Naruto, said Shikamaru to his best friend Choji. Yeah, he was usually faster from anyone here, since he always used to pull all those prank, said Choji still eating. I'm sure he'll tell us tomorrow, said Shikamaru going to sleep. Naruto got home and saw the house clean with Jiraiya sitting by the kitchen eating some rice and vegetable that he made. Naruto walked in with his clothes dirty with blood and dirt on them. Jiraiya looked at him for a few minutes before asking, "What happened to you?" "I was in a taijutsu match in my class and I lost," said Naruto putting his head down. "Was it the seal?" asked Jiraiya looking at him. "Yes, and the fact that I don't know any taijutsu," said Naruto ashamed. "Didn't they teach you anything in the academy?" asked Jiraiya looking at him. "Iruka-sensei used to help me. Then Mizuki-sensei decided to teach but I did everything he taught me one time and I almost hurt myself," said Naruto looking at the old man in front of him. "He sabotaged the boy's learning," thought Jiraiya angry. "I guess I'll get you caught up," said Jiraiya looking at the yellow-head boy. "Run around the compound until you can't fell anything," said Jiraiya smirking. Naruto did as his new sensei told him and started running. He ran around the compound 5 times and he couldn't fell his legs so he just collapsed to the ground. It was late when he finished running so Jiraiya took him inside and made him something to eat. Naruto ate his food and went upstairs to take a shower. He just stood under the hot water without moving a muscle until he felt clean. Jiraiya was making a schedule for his new training session in the compound. He was only going to work on physical and chakra control stuff for the next week to get caught up to the other kids in the academy. 6 to 9 a.m. physical workout, 10 to 12 speed training, 1 to 2 p.m. target practice, 3 to 7 chakra control, next day for taijutsu practice. The next day, Naruto woke up at 5 in the morning and started stretching to start his day. When Jiraiya told him that he wasn't going to go to the academy for a week to catch up with the other kids, he got really excited. As soon as it turned 6, Naruto started doing push-ups. When he finished, he started doing some sit-ups, then some pull-ups until it was his break time. His body felt numb so he went inside to get something to eat. He spent his break time in the house eating. When it turned 10, he ran outside and started running around the compound for his speed training. The academy. "Where the hell is Naruto?" said Iruka looking around the class. "I told I beat his butt and he left the academy," said Sakura proudly. "I was awesome, right, Sasuke-kun?" said Sakura waiting for a positive comment from her love. "You are pathetic and Naruto is pathetic," said Sasuke in his usual Uchiha's or better mood. "But Sasuke-kun," pleaded Sakura looking hurt at the comment. "Troublesome. Can't you see that Naruto couldn't even move in the fight?" said Shikamaru going to back to sleep. "Now that you say that he really couldn't move his body," said Kiba looking at Iruka. "I'm still better than him, I would still beat that baka," yelled Sakura glaring at Kiba. "Whatever," said Kiba and Akamaru just barked. "Shut up," yelled Iruka using his big scary head jutsu. Sakura looked at Sasuke hurt because the Uchiha boy wouldn't even spare a glance at her. Ino was of course happy that her Sasuke-kun wasn't looking at Sakura, but she was also hurt since he wasn't looking at her either. Naruto. Naruto finished running around the compound and felt his body get lighter from when he started running. He went inside and opened a few instant ramen cups for lunch. After eating, he went back outside and walked to another training ground which had some practice dummy. He started with his target practice. Being exhausted physically and mentally after the speed and target training, he took a small break just to let his body cool down. After more than 20 minutes and having regaining some of his chakra, Naruto made his way toward the tree. Close to the little lake that was next to the training ground, and he started walking on top of the tree. Difficult in the beginning, but after an hour of falling on his butt finally started to get the hang of it. Proud of his new accomplishment, he stared to jump around but lose some of his concentration and fell down the tree straight on his butt. Naruto got up and walked up the tree once again, this time with no problem. Naruto and Jiraiya went inside after he finished the day's training and they sat, ate, and laughed as they enjoyed lunch. Naruto was starting to see Jiraiya as the family that he never had since the man took his time to teach him. As they laughed, Jiraiya could not help but see himself in the young Naruto. He had never been a natural genius like Orochimaru or great chakra control expert like Tsunade. Jiraiya's skills was that he able to adapt in the heat of battle, and he could learn most ninjutsu through hard work and determination. However, this was not to say that he did not have incredible talents himself, as he did have a talent for seals that did shock his team. Since it was considered such a high-level skill, most were surprised at how Jiraiya could pick it up so easily. Jiraiya saw that potential in Naruto as a shinobi. He may not be a great seal master, but he would work till he could do whatever was being asked of him. Jiraiya was starting to love the boy like he did his late student, and he didn't even know him long yet. This was his godson, even though he didn't tell Naruto that yet. He was definitely sad that he had not been able to save Naruto from his childhood, knowing that Sarutobi had doomed him to a life of suffering by refusing to let Naruto be adopted by Jiraiya. The greatest shame that Jiraiya dealt with was not being able to defend his godson from those attackers and haters in the village in the first few years of his life. He prayed Kami would have mercy on his soul, or when he found his student's wife in heaven, he could look her in the eye and explain why Naruto was left to the horrible fate that he suffered as a child. He could not replace Naruto's past, but he would work to ensure that the Naruto would be able to achieve whatever he wanted to be like his dad. He would be the greatest Hokage, and by sheer force of will, he would make the world acknowledge him. This could be the only gift that Jiraiya could leave Naruto to make up for failing him as a child. With that final thought, the next morning Naruto woke, took a shower, stretched and started doing his physical workout. After doing his physical workout, Naruto started running around the compound for his speed training after Jiraiya increased the gravity by 10%. After the speed training, Naruto began his taijutsu training with Jiraiya. He was substituting the target practice and chakra control portion of his training with taijutsu training as Jiraiya had told him. Jiraiya created a clone so that Naruto could spar with after he taught him the fox style. Jiraiya was the teacher who explained the katas of the fox style to the boy, and the clone was used as a sparring partner to allow Naruto to learn the motions of the style. Initially, the constant need to keep his fist up to protect his body and to block attacks was very foreign to Naruto, who was taught the wrong way to fight at the academy. However, Jiraiya explained how this often left Naruto open to blows to his head area. By keeping his guard up, he reduced the openings. Additionally, the use of deflections and guiding the punches was extremely foreign. However, Naruto could see how effective it was. It was not about overpowering the fist or blow of the other person, but simply to deflect the energy away from the body. Every hand or fist was still connected to the wrist, so by attacking this joint you could force the fist away from the body. The style was to use the body and the user's speed to stop, dodge or deflect attacks. As they trained, the use of leg strikes to keep the opponent away from coming in close to the body was also very helpful. He had never thought about how his legs being a primary weapon, as Mizuki always told him to keep an opening to keep the opponent away. However, the fox style used leg strikes, a lot of flips, and constant movement to overpower the enemy and viciousness like an animal to attack. They would strike the opponent's body from head to toe. Hours of using his legs in such manner only increased the fatigue that Naruto felt from the gravity seals. Jiraiya made him repetitively strike a pole that was in the middle of the training ground to increase his leg power and harden his bones. Naruto also worked on being able to anticipate blows from his enemies by simply doing some back flips and twist in the air for momentum. Jiraiya assaulted Naruto by kicking him or punching him, and the demon fox container would only be able to dodge, deflect and block the attack without fighting back. Jiraiya was doing this to increase the boy's reflexes, making him able to act fast in case of an attack. Naruto worked on this program the entire morning, and was glad when it finally got dark so he could get some lunch before going back to practice again. He sat down with his aching legs. Man, I did not know my legs could hurt so much after all the training that we have been through. Naruto, you need to cancel the gravity seal when using this style because as you saw it requires fast movement, explained Jiraiya looking at the boy. Okay, said Naruto looking at his new sensei smiling. Naruto, do not show off your skills for no reason, only show your skills when you're in a fight, said Jiraiya looking at him serious. Okay, I never planned to, said Naruto smiling at his sensei. Get some rest, tomorrow will not be easy, said Jiraiya smirking. The next day, Naruto woke up and stretched getting ready for the day. It turned 6 and he took off his jacket staying in only his pants and he started with his physical workout training doing some push-ups, then some sit-ups, and after that some pull-ups. After the 3 hours were over, Naruto went inside to get something to eat. When he got in the house there was nothing in the kitchen, so he decided to go to Ichiraku to get breakfast. Naruto got 10 bowls of ramen for himself and his sensei and went back home making sure that no one followed him so that they wouldn't know where he lived. He wanted to make sure that no one knew where he lived because then they would mess up his sensei's house because of him. He was grateful that Jiraiya decided to help him improve his skills, so he didn't want anything to happen to the man because of him. Naruto made it to the house with the food that he just bought for himself and his sensei. Naruto ate the food with his sensei and went back to work doing the speed training for 2 hours before he got another break. The same thing went on until it was time for him to go to sleep. Naruto got ready to do his speed and physical training before working on his taijutsu for the rest of the day. His throwing accuracy was perfect since every night when Jiraiya fell asleep he would get up to practice it with some chakra control exercise. His control was average since his reserve was so massive. Jiraiya told him he would show some more control exercises later on after he mastered the tree climbing and the taijutsu style. Naruto, since you know the katas to the style, you'll get used to it while using it until you can completely master it. It's the perfect style against every other styles in the village, said Jiraiya looking at his sensei. How is that, sensei? Said Naruto confused. Let me explain the other styles to you, said Jiraiya looking at him. First, the Uchiha style is based on anticipation using the Sharingan. With their ability to anticipate, they can respond accordingly. Since we're working on your speed and power of faking an opponent out at high speeds, then we can maybe use the anticipation style of the Sharingan against it. At that highest speed, the Sharingan user may fall for the initial attack because their body is trained to anticipate the strike. If we remove the time to adjust, they will instinctively follow the initial attack path to block. This could leave them open to attack when the attack is redirected too quickly for them to adjust. And since your style use fast movement and has no exact pattern, it's perfect against them, said Jiraiya taking a pause after that long explanation. Secondly, the Hyuga style relies on attacking chakra points using their hands with minimal emphasis on the feet. If we can focus your hand work to quick attacks and defensive maneuver like deflection, and all those other animal-like maneuvers, then you can work on countering their attacks. Also, while blocking their attacks you can possibly use your elbow or feet as weapons to strike back while engaging their hand-based attacks. Also, the style will improve your avoidance by teaching you to swivel your hips, jump back, or roll away, flip back, and ducking in front of your opponent. As we progress, you will instinctively be more prepared to deal with their blows with deflection, said Jiraiya looking at his student who was paying close attention to the explanation. Third, Guy's style relies on strength with fist and feet. It also involves lots of aerial moves. However, the Fox style teaches you to avoid blows with low ground work, which will make their high-flying moves useless. Since they also use high speed, it will be a little harder to fight against. These areas are traditionally harder and sharper, which could inflict damage on the opponent. For example, if you use quick jabs to slow down the attacker punches, or you kick the inside of an enemy's leg to force them to jump back or prevent high-flying kicks, then they will have to adjust, explained Jiraiya, thinking about the styles one by one. Additionally, your style will give you great striking power with your leg, which will also keep your enemy back. Your legs will always be your strongest muscle and it has the greatest reach, so focusing attacks from there only increases your attacking power. Also, by not staying close to your opponent, the chances of them landing a hit on you will decrease, explained Jiraiya, which had Naruto jumping around yelling how awesome he was. Do you understand that if you can at least stand toe to toe with these great taijutsu styles, then you will be able to battle any person? Asked Jiraiya looking at the boy. I will take care of him, Minato, thought Jiraiya looking at the boy. Naruto, today we're going to do another type of exercise, said Jiraiya smirking. What is it? Some awesome fire jutsu or something, said Naruto jumping around. No, you're going to meditate, smirked Jiraiya looking at the boy. How is that going to help me? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei totally confused. It'll calm you down, and increase your ability to sense other people, and your reflexes, and it increases your control over your chakra systems, said Jiraiya looking at him. Okay, then what do I do? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei. Just sit still and clear your mind of everything, said Jiraiya showing him the sitting position. Naruto got in the position and proceeded to clear his mind of everything. Academy. Iruka started looking around, but he still couldn't see where Naruto was. The previous day he looked all around the village looking for the kid. He went to the orphanage, but they told him that the people who used to be in charge got arrested for kicking a kid out of the orphanage, and he knew that it had to be Naruto. Today, if Naruto didn't show up to the academy, he would report it to the Hokage again. Has anyone seen Naruto in the past week? Asked Iruka looking at the kids. No, said Shikamaru going back to sleep. Shikamaru, wake your lazy self up, yelled Iruka with his big scary head jutsu. I'm sure he's alright, said Choji looking at Shikamaru eating his potato chips. Who cares, everyone has been happy with him not being here pulling pranks in class, annoying me, asking me out, isn't that right, Sasuke-kun, said Sakura with hearts in her eyes at the last part. I wish you wasn't here right now, you even worse than Naruto, said Sasuke without even looking at her. Sakura started crying at the comment and everyone started laughing at the big forehead girl. Ino was the first one who started laughing, and Sakura and Ino broke out fighting over the Uchiha once again. The boys just sat back watching the fight unfold. Ino and Sakura would always fight over the Uchiha using insults. The boys wanted to see some face smashing, but they never fought like that. I'll have to report this to the Hokage, said Iruka leaving the class, leaving Mizuki in charge for the day. Hokage Tower. Iruka walked in the office and saw Sarutobi reading some papers for missions that just came in. Sarutobi looked up from the papers and saw Iruka standing in front of him, worried out his mind, and he already knew what this was about. Hokage-sama, Naruto has not showed up to school for the past week, said Iruka worriedly. Don't worry, Iruka, I know where Naruto is, said Sarutobi smiling. Is he alright? Asked Iruka quickly. Yes, he's in good hand. Seems like some teacher at the academy has been teaching the wrong thing on purpose. So he's trying to catch up to the other kids, said Sarutobi looking at the young teacher. If you say he's okay, I guess I have to go back to the academy, bowed Iruka before leaving the office. Iruka body flickered back to the academy and saw all the students just standing around like it was nothing. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto started doing the meditation exercise and woke up finding himself in a sewer-like place with water ankle deep in the sewer. He looked down the hallway and saw a bunch of little corridors leading to different places. He heard a deep voice at the end of the sewer. Naruto followed the voice through the sewer, and found himself in front of a big gate with a seal in the middle of the gate. Hello, is anyone here? Asked Naruto a little scared. Who is this? Said the Kyuubi looking at the little boy in front of the gates. Who said that? Where am I? Said Naruto backing up a little away from the gates. It's me, the great and powerful Kyuubi no Yuko, said the Kyuubi in a deep and proud voice. KK Kyuubi, stuttered Naruto looking terrified. Yes kid, don't make me repeat myself, said the fox looking at the kid. Where am I? Am I dead? Asked Naruto shaking. No, you're not dead kid. You're in your mind, said the fox looking at the kid laughing. What are you doing in my mind then? Asked Naruto looking at the fox still terrified. I'm sealed within you, so I live in your mind, said the fox seriously. Naruto quickly wake up in the real world with a terrified look on his face. Jiraiya looked at him and already knew what this was about. Jiraiya walked up to him and sat down beside his godson. Naruto was shaking, looking terrified at his sensei. Sensei, I just had the craziest dream. I woke up in a sewer and saw the nine-tailed fox and he said that he was sealed in me, so he lives in my mind, explained Naruto, calming down, looking at his sensei, hoping that it was just a dream. Actually, kid, that wasn't a dream, said Jiraiya, scratching the back of his head. What? Yelled Naruto, pausing to calm down. So, I am a demon like everyone said I was, said Naruto, starting to cry, before he felt a little lump on his head getting hit by Jiraiya over the head. You are not a demon, you hear me, said Jiraiya, looking at the kid with a serious face. You have to go back in your mindscape. I'll explain everything to you later, said Jiraiya, looking at him. Just trust me, said Jiraiya when he saw Naruto doubting to go back. Naruto got in the same meditating position and found himself in the sewer-like place once again. He walked the same way to find himself in front of the big gates once again. Naruto looked inside and saw the Kyuubi's head in front of the gates. He was still scared, but this time he wasn't shaking as much as before. Oh, you're back, said Kyuubi, looking at the boy. You say this, my mind, why does it look like this? Asked Naruto, looking around. Because unlike your outside appearance, you're pretty sad and angry, said Kyuubi, looking at him. I'm sorry, kid, if I was never tricked into attacking your village, your life would have never been like this, said Kyuubi, looking at Naruto. What do you mean tricked? Said Naruto, confused. I never had anything with this village, why would I just wake up one day and attack it? I was put under a genjutsu by a man named Uchiha Madara to attack this village for him, since he couldn't do it himself with the fourth around and Jiraiya of the Sannin, and even Sarutobi here isn't around, so he put me under a powerful genjutsu which put me in a rage stage to attack the village, explained the fox, remembering what happened. Did you say Uchiha? Asked Naruto, remembering that the Uchihas lived in this village. Yes, kid. I'm sorry for messing up your life, kid, said the fox truthfully. It's okay. I guess now that I know it wasn't your fault, is there anything I can do to make this place better? Said Naruto, crying, looking around the sewer. You can make this place a little more nice, said Kyuubi, looking around. Just concentrate and make this place like a forest or something, said Kyuubi, looking around. Naruto concentrated and started thinking happy things that happened in his life, like being with Gramps, and meeting Jiraiya sensei. 8 or 5 minutes the water that was on the ground disappeared and inside the cage turned into a big green forest with a lot of big trees. There was a lake besides the forest flowing peaceful, and Naruto opened his eyes. He looked around and saw his work, so he smiled, looking around. Thank you, but let me ask you a question, said Kyuubi, looking at the kid. What is it? Asked Naruto, looking at his tenant. Why do you continue to follow that pink-haired genin even though all she does is humiliate you? Asked the Kyuubi. I don't know, I love her, I guess, said Naruto, confused at the question. Do you think she loves you back? Asked the Kyuubi. I don't know, maybe she will one day, said Naruto, thinking about all the times that he asked Sakura out and she just hit him on the head or humiliate him in front of the whole class. Naruto started walking around his mind to see his memories. He saw all the times that people cursed at him or beat him just for walking by their store. He saw all the times that Sakura just humiliated him, making him feel worthless when he was just trying to help. He kept walking around and saw his friends Kiba, Choji, and Shikamaru in class talking. He saw Iruka helping him in class, and then he saw the Hokage comforting him in his office, and finally Jiraiya coming along to save his life. At the end of the hallway he saw a seal on a door. He tried to get access to the door but he couldn't, so he decided to tell Jiraiya about it. Naruto found himself once again in the real world and saw Jiraiya with a thing in his hand looking over the wall into the next compound. Jiraiya while looking in the Hyuga compound at some women bathing. What are you doing, sensei? Asked Naruto, looking straight at his sensei. No, nothing, kid, how was it? Said Jiraiya, looking at him, putting the telescope away in his jacket. I started walking around until I saw a door sealed and I couldn't open it, explained Naruto, looking at his sensei. They probably sealed some of his abilities, thought Jiraiya. Go back to your mindscape, said Jiraiya doing some hand seals. Naruto closed his eyes and found himself in his mindscape again, but this time Jiraiya was standing beside him. Where is that door, kid? Asked Jiraiya looking around. Follow me, said Naruto guiding Jiraiya to the door. Jiraiya found himself standing in front of a door title body. He did some quick hand seals and Naruto grew 2 inches in front of him and his hair grew to reach his shoulder and got even more messy than it was before. They walked in the door and Jiraiya saw another door with brain on top of it. He unsealed the door and continued walking around, seeing a door with muscle on it. He unsealed it, walked out the room. They went back to the real world and Jiraiya stood in front of Naruto looking serious. How do you feel? Asked Jiraiya looking at the kid. Like something just at my head, and more power is flowing through my body, explained Naruto looking around. And my body feel light, said Naruto looking around. Run around the compound one time, said Jiraiya looking at his carefully. Naruto started running with the gravitation seal still on him and he could run around the compound in half the time that he usually did, which surprised him and Jiraiya. They put seal on him, limiting his abilities, thought Jiraiya with his face full of anger. I knew it, he got the Namikaze speed ability, thought Jiraiya smiling. Stop Naruto, said Jiraiya smiling at the kid. I'm going to teach you another chakra control exercise before I teach you a jutsu, said Jiraiya smiling. What is it? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei laughing. Let's go by the little lake that was made in the back, said Jiraiya walking toward the back of the compound. Naruto followed him walking slowly with his hands behind his head. They made it to the lake and Jiraiya started walking on the water to demonstrate the exercise to him. Naruto jumped in the water, exited and fell in the cold water. He jumped out of the water shaking since the water was extremely cold after Jiraiya had put a seal on it the previous night. Why the hell is this water so cold? Yelled Naruto glaring at his sensei. My bad, I forgot to tell you that it was cold, grinned Jiraiya. Now start walking on the water. Just channel the right amount of chakra to the bottom of your feet like the tree climbing exercise, said Jiraiya laughing. Naruto got on the water and flowed the chakra to the bottom of his feet and he started walking on the water. He kept adjusting the chakra to put at the bottom of his feet to not fall in the water when the cold waves made it around. Naruto got out the water with a big grin on his face and walked toward his sensei. When he made it to the spot he saw Jiraiya standing there waiting for him. As soon as he arrived Jiraiya did some hand seals and said, Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning jutsu, and summoned a human-height toad. Naruto jumped back looking at the toad since it just appeared out of nowhere. Hello Jiraiya-sama, what can I do for you? Asked the toad politely. Hey Gamaki, I need the contract, said Jiraiya to the toad. Taking on a new apprentice? Asked the toad before opening his mouth and a big scroll came out with his tongue. Yes, said Jiraiya looking at the toad smiling. Naruto, this is Gamaki the contract holder for the toads. Gamaki, this is Naruto the kid with the QB sealed in him, said Jiraiya scratching the back of his head. Hello Naruto-san, said Gamaki looking at the kid. What's up Gamaki-san, said Naruto scratching the back of his head. Okay, Gaki, now with the jutsu I said I was going to teach you. Sign your name in blood in this scroll while I explain it to you, said Jiraiya pointing at the spot next to Minato's name. Naruto bit his thumb for some blood and wrote his name on it before signing at the bottom. Why was there only 2 names on it if it's a jutsu? Asked Naruto confused. It's a powerful jutsu, and I was the first one to sign it and I get to choose who I pass it to. It's the summoning contract to summon toads in battle. I taught it to my last student and now I'm going to teach it to you, explained Jiraiya looking at his student. So you was the 4th sensei, since he was the only one who could summon toads before, said Naruto looking at Jiraiya. He's smarter now, must be the seal that I removed from his brain allowing him to think better, thought Jiraiya smiling. Yes, I did train the 4th Hokage. That's a story for another time. Now here are the hand seals for the jutsu, said Jiraiya, showing him the hand seals to perform the jutsu. Naruto did the exact hand seals that Jiraiya just showed him and said, Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning jutsu, and a little orange toad with a blue jacket appeared in front of him. Who the hell are you, kid? Asked the little toad, looking at the yellow-head kid. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Who are you? Said Naruto, looking at the little toad. My name is Gamakichi. What do you want? Said Gamakichi, looking at the yellow-head boy. I was just trying out this jutsu, brat, yelled Naruto, glaring at the little toad. Did you bring any snack? Yelled Gamakichi, looking at the boy. No, I didn't know I need any, said Naruto, looking at Jiraiya. Next time bring some snacks before summoning me, said Gamakichi, disappearing a puff of smokes. Jiraiya looked surprised at the kid for being able to summon the son of the boss toad on his first try. He smiled, seeing the boy coming along better than he expected. He thought he was going to have to throw him off a cliff for him to get the jutsu right for a minute. Naruto looked at his sensei proudly, and they went inside to get something to eat, before continuing the day's training. Naruto was still thinking about what the fox told him in his mind, so he decided to tell his sensei about it. Jiraiya saw the look on Naruto's face and decided to start the conversation. What's on your mind, Gaki? Asked Jiraiya, looking at him eating his food. In my conversation with Kyuubi, he told me that he was tricked into attacking the village by a man named Uchiha Madara. I thought the Uchihas were from Konoha. Why would he want to destroy the village? Asked Naruto, totally confused. Uchiha Madara? I knew the fox wouldn't just attack the village for no reason, thought Jiraiya, thinking over the situation. Naruto, what the fox told you is probably the truth. Before, there is a legendary version of the Sharingan that is said to be able to control the tailed demons, said Jiraiya, looking at the kid seriously. Who is this Uchiha Madara? He must be very powerful to be able to control a tailed demon, said Naruto, looking at his sensei. Uchiha Madara was one of the founding fathers of the Hidden Leaf Village. He left the village because the first became Hokage and not him. I think the reason that he wants the village destroyed is because the other Uchihas did not leave with him, said Jiraiya, looking at his student seriously. So that's the problem. Do you think he's still alive? Asked Naruto, looking at his sensei in worry. I think so, kid. Not many people knows he's still alive, said Kyuubi through the mind link they had. Naruto, with the kind of things that will happen in the future, I want you at least to have a childhood that you can remember. You're going back to the academy tomorrow, just make sure you act normal, come up with some kind of excuse to why you wasn't in school. Do you have any friends in the academy? Said Jiraiya, looking at the kid. Yeah, I got Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, and Shino, but he's usually very quiet, said Naruto, thinking about all the people who was nice to him. Oh, and there is Hinata. She usually faint when I talk to her though, explained Naruto, thinking about the girl. Seems like that girl has a crush on you, though. Jiraiya smiling at the boy. Naruto, since most thing that will happen might involve this village in some way in the future. I want you to enjoy the rest of your childhood with those you hold dear. I'll be making you a new training schedule for the time you're in the academy, said Jiraiya, taking out something to write with. He started writing the new training schedule for his godson. Jiraiya finished the schedule and handed it to Naruto so he could read it over. Saturday. Whole day free to whatever you want to do. Sunday. Seals training, taijutsu training, strength training, chakra control, meditation. Naruto finished reading the new schedule and closed the scroll and put it in his pocket so that he could look at it from time to time. Jiraiya looked at him and smiled, seeing so much of Minato and himself in the boy at the same time, a natural genius and at the same time an idiot. They met only a short time ago, but Naruto and Jiraiya were really bonding with each other on a family level. Jiraiya decided that tonight was the night that he would tell Naruto about him being his godfather. He still couldn't tell the boy about his father yet, since it was a law in the village, but with him being in the house he will definitely find out by himself since his father lived in the house. Naruto, you start with the schedule tomorrow, which is Tuesday, said Jiraiya, smiling at him. I finally get to see Shikamaru and Choji again. and I can't forget Sakura-chan, laughed Naruto thinking about the pink-haired girl in his class. I'm not even going to tell, he should find out for himself that the girl is a evil bitch, thought Kyuubi thinking about all the times he had to heal Naruto from Sakura's blows. Naruto, I have something to tell you, said Jiraiya with a serious look on his face. What is it, sensei? Said Naruto seeing the look on his sensei's face. I can't tell you about your parents until you reach a certain, or find out by yourself because it's a law in this village. We wouldn't want people finding out who your parents were since they had a lot of very powerful enemies that you are not ready for yet, said Jiraiya looking at him sadly. I understand that because Gramps would have told me by now, but they must have been very powerful to have enemies that would go after their kids, said Naruto thinking what Jiraiya told him over. Yeah, and I was a personal friend, that's why they made me your godfather, said Jiraiya looking at him with a smile. You my godfather? Where the hell have you been all this time then? Asked Naruto with anger clearly in his voice. I wasn't done, said Jiraiya sadly. When you were born, I tried to adopt you, sensei said. Yes, but the council bastards wouldn't let me, saying that I was the village's only spymaster, that I couldn't stay in the village to raise you. When you were 5 I tried to adopt you again, but they still wouldn't let, and sensei said that he would make sure that you were all right. I would have left the village with you, but since you have the fox sealed in you, they made sure that you couldn't leave the village, and if you traveled with me we both would have died since I had to fight a lot of enemies, and I thought you would have had a better childhood in the village than with me, since I never stayed in the same place for more than a few weeks, explained Jiraiya with pain and regret in his eyes looking at the boy. Naruto started crying looking at his sensei, feeling guilty since he started yelling for no reason, which made his godfather really sad. I'm sorry sensei, I didn't know, said Naruto crying. It's okay Gaki, said Jiraiya looking at him. Get ready, we are going to the Hokage's office before we go buy grocery, said Jiraiya getting up. Naruto went inside to take a shower so he could get ready to go to Gramps' office. After taking a shower, Naruto put his orange jumpsuit and came downstairs to see Jiraiya waiting for him. Jiraiya hated the jumpsuit so much that he wanted to burn them while the kid slept. He would make sure to buy him some new clothes while they were shopping. Naruto, why do you wear this jumpsuit if you really want to be a ninja? Asked Jiraiya looking at the boy's clothing style. Because that's all they would sell me, and the man made me pay a lot for this cool jumpsuit and he sold it to me on a discount, said Naruto looking at his sensei laughing. How much did you pay for this exactly? Said Jiraiya raising an eyebrow. 600 ryo, said Naruto laughing, don't know currency. Do you know where this shop is? Said Jiraiya with a grin. Yeah, said Naruto confused. Would you mind showing me later so that I can't buy some clothes? Said Jiraiya with a sinister smile on his face. Okay, said Naruto, a little scared by the look on his godfather's face. Naruto and Jiraiya walked out of the compound heading for the Hokage's office first. Since they didn't have anything to do, they were walking very slowly. Naruto and Jiraiya passed in front of the Hyuga compound. Since their compound was right next to the Hyugas, Naruto had never been in this part of the village in his life since he didn't know it. Jiraiya decided to transform himself into an old man to see the people that be throwing stuff at Naruto and calling him names. A middle-aged lady threw a bottle at Naruto, but Naruto caught the bottle and 3 Anbus appeared out of nowhere and arrested the lady for not following the third's law. They made it to the Hokage's office and they went in through the window like Jiraiya usually did, but that didn't bother Naruto since he never really knocked or waited to be called in the office. When they entered the office, Shikamaru was right there talking to the Hokage about the fact that Naruto wasn't in school. When Shikamaru saw Naruto enter the office with an old man behind him. So troublesome, I was just asking the Hokage if he seen you, said Shikamaru with a bored expression on his face. Shikamaru, what's up? Said Naruto as he rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Where have you been, Naruto? Did you grow taller? Asked Shikamaru looking at him up and down. That's why I came here, sensei, said Jiraiya looking at the old man. What is it, Jiraiya? Asked Sarutobi looking at him. Naruto, are you sure that this boy can hear this? Said Jiraiya looking at him. Of course, Shikamaru is one of my friends and he's trustworthy, said Naruto laughing. Wait, Naruto, you're hanging out with Jiraiya of the Sannin? Asked Shikamaru looking at Naruto shocked. It's a secret between me and you, right, Shikamaru? Said Naruto looking at him laughing. Troublesome, but yeah, said Shikamaru taking a seat. He's my godfather, laughed Naruto looking at the shocked boy. No way, said Naruto looking at him. Jiraiya did some hand seals and said, sound seal, and put a sound seal over the room so that no one would hear what they were saying except for the ones in the room. Sensei, the academy teachers has been teaching Naruto the wrong things on purpose, and there were 2 seals placed on him to limit his body and mind. There was one on his brain and one on his muscle, said Jiraiya looking at the old man. Did you find out who put them on him? Asked Sarutobi looking at his old student seriously. Why would someone do something like that to Naruto? Is it because of the pranks we used to pull in the academy? Said Naruto looking at the Toad Sage. No, it's not that they hate him for something he has no control over, said Sarutobi hoping the young boy would understand. Because of the fox, said Shikamaru, which surprised everyone in the room. How did you find out? Asked Naruto looking at the boy terrified. That time the lady was calling you a demon, and the marks on your face. Don't worry, I didn't even tell my parents. It's troublesome though, the village is kind of lucky since you still don't hate those people for what they do to you, said Shikamaru rubbing his head. I removed the seals and he grew a couple of inches right in front of me, and his mind kind of understands stuff better now. Don't get me wrong, he's still a idiot, said Jiraiya smirking, which had Naruto glaring at him. So, when do you go back to the academy? It's not the same without your pranks. It's such a drag, you know, said Shikamaru looking at him. Why the hell is everything a drag to you, Shikamaru? Asked Naruto laughing. Because everything is, said Shikamaru looking at his friend. I go back tomorrow, said Naruto with a grin. I'll be waiting for you. I got to go home because my mom will kill me if I'm late for dinner. She's such a drag, said Shikamaru opening the door after Jiraiya dropped the sound seal. Good kid, said Jiraiya looking at his sensei. So, Naruto, how is it going? Asked Sarutobi looking at the boy. I'm okay, Gramps. Did you miss me? Said Naruto laughing and looking at the old man. Of course, those paperworks were boring me to death, said Sarutobi laughing. Wait till I become Hokage, old man, said Naruto looking at him. Naruto, let's go. We have to go to the store to get you some clothes, since these clothes are already too small for you, said Jiraiya walking toward the window. I'll see you later, Gramps, said Naruto waving his hand to the old man and walking toward the window. They both jumped out the window and Naruto started guiding Jiraiya toward the store where he bought the jumpsuit. When they made it to the store, Jiraiya transformed himself into the smaller version of Naruto and Naruto transformed himself into Shikamaru and they walked in the store. Naruto picked up a black shinobi pants with many pockets and asked the man how much it was while he was still disguised as Shikamaru and the man told him 200 ryo. Jiraiya picked up the orange jumpsuit and asked the man how much it was and the man told him 700 ryo. Why is this 700 ryo while his pants is 200 ryo? Asked Jiraiya still transformed into Naruto. Because he's not a dirt like you. You're lucky I'm willing to sell you anything, answered the man. Jiraiya dropped the transformation and Naruto did the same and Jiraiya stood in front of the man releasing an insane amount of killing intent. Why do you take advantage of the boy like this? Asked Jiraiya looking at the man. I, said the man looking in Jiraiya's eyes. Sensei, leave it alone, pleaded Naruto to his sensei. You see, even though you've been doing him wrong, he still don't want anything to happen to your miserable life, said Jiraiya still looking at the man. I'm said the man looking terrified. What if I decided to kill you for all you've done to him? Laughed Jiraiya looking at the man. And with that the store owner pissed on himself. Sensei, don't do that, said Naruto pleading to the man. Why? Asked Jiraiya, still laughing. Because I'll give back all the extra money I made off of him, said the store owner, opening his cash register. It's okay, really. I just need some clothes, said Naruto, looking at the man. WH, what are you looking for? Said the man, looking at the boy's innocent face. I need some orange pants, said Naruto, smiling. Are you sure? Orange is not a color for ninjas, you know, said the man, looking at him. Yeah, he needs some black pants and a black long-sleeved fishnet shirt to put under his shirt, a long-sleeved orange and black shirt since he seems to like orange, said Jiraiya, looking the boy over. Do you need any sandals? Asked the store owner, looking at them. Yeah, some black ones to match his pants, said Jiraiya, looking at the store owner. How many sets do you want of the clothes? Asked the store owner. I'll take 5 since he's still growing and they will get messed up anyhow, said Jiraiya, smirking. Let me take his measurements for the shirts and I'll give you the fishnet shirts, the pants, and the sandals. You can pick up the shirts in about 2 hours, said the store owner, taking Naruto's measurement. After taking his measurements, he handed them the pants with some white bandages, the fishnet shirts, and the sandals, and Jiraiya was about to walk out the store before Naruto took out some money to pay the man. No, this is free, you'll have to pay next time though, said the man, not accepting the money. No, take it, I'll feel guilty getting all of these without paying, and I got enough money for it anyway, said Naruto, putting the money on the counter. What a good kid, it's sad I didn't realize that earlier, thought the old man, smiling, and with that Naruto had one more person on his side. Jiraiya sealed the clothes in an empty scroll that he carried with him and they started making their way toward the market. They walked slowly since they were in no hurry to get home. They made it to the store after a couple of minutes walking and they bought what they needed, even though some of the store owners got arrested in the process or refusing to sell food to the demon brat. Once again Jiraiya sealed the grocery that they got and they walked out the store slowly without paying. Naruto started laughing at his sensei until Jiraiya slapped him across the head. Let's go get some ramen, said Naruto, looking at his sensei with stars in his eyes. Naruto, why do you like that ramen so much? Asked Jiraiya, laughing. You have to taste it to know, said Naruto, looking at his sensei. Naruto started running toward the ramen stand and he was surprised since the gravity seal was still activated and he couldn't even feel it. Jiraiya decided that he had to put on a gravity seal on himself. He was to teach Naruto since the boy was getting faster and faster. Jiraiya was still faster than Naruto, but in a few years he will not even come close to catching up to his speed since it ran in his family. Jiraiya caught up to Naruto with no trouble in front of the ramen stand. They walked inside the ramen stand and took a seat. The old man looked at them, smiling. Where have you been, Naruto? Asked the old man, looking at the boy, smiling. Catching up on some stuff, you know, said Naruto, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Who is this with you? Asked the old man, pointing at Jiraiya, who was sitting next to Naruto. That's my godfather, said Naruto, laughing. What do you want? Asked the old man, handing them 2 menus. I'll get 3 miso ramen, said Naruto with stars in his eyes. I'll get a pork ramen, said Jiraiya, laughing at the kid. Coming right up, said the old, preparing the food. Old man Ichiraku brought them their orders and they started eating, to Naruto, which was swallowing the ramen at a high speed. Naruto finished his 3 bowls before Jiraiya could finish the one that he ordered. They finished eating and paid, walking out the ramen stand with Naruto complaining that they should have stayed longer since he's still hungry. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, smiling at the fact that the boy reminded him so much of his late student Minato. Jiraiya and Naruto made their way toward the clothing store to pick up the shirts that the old man was making for Naruto. They made it to the store and walked in looking for the old man. Are you finished with the clothes? Asked Jiraiya, looking at the old man. Yes, sir, said the old man, handing Jiraiya the shirts. Thank you, said Naruto, walking out the shop. Come again, said the old man, waving at them. Namikaze compound. Jiraiya and Naruto arrived and unsealed the clothes and the food that was in the scroll and put them in place. They went back outside to the training ground since it was only 7 and they could still get some training in. Jiraiya decided that it was time for him to teach Naruto the shadow clone since his chakra reserve was massive. Naruto stood in front of Jiraiya waiting for instruction on what they were going to do now. Okay, Naruto, I'm going to teach you a jutsu now, said Jiraiya smirking. Yuppie, about time, old man, said Naruto jumping up and down in joy. It's a cool fire jutsu, ain't it? Said Naruto jumping in front of Jiraiya laughing. No, it's helpful for training though, said Jiraiya looking at the kid. Huh, what is it? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei, calming down a little. Since your chakra reserve is big, you're going to get it easily, explained Jiraiya looking at the boy. What is it already, sensei? Said Naruto in an impatient tone. It's called the shadow clone, yelled Jiraiya smacking him over the head. You are not to use it in front of people, we'll only use it for training for now, said Jiraiya looking at the boy as he explained everything to him. How does that help me? What is a shadow clone anyway? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei confused. The shadow clone makes a physical copy of yourself, said Jiraiya showing Naruto the hand seal by making a clone of himself. I could never make a clone in class, said Naruto looking at his sensei with shame in his eyes. It's because you have way more chakra than the kids in your class, and your control sucked since you never had anybody to help you with it, explained Jiraiya looking at the kid with a smile. Oh, that makes sense, since I have more chakra it's harder to control it, said Naruto doing the seal for the shadow clone, and he created 5 clones of himself on the spot. How those it help my training? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei. Okay, come with me, said one of Jiraiya's clones to one of Naruto's clones. The clone followed Jiraiya to the front of the compound. You are an idiot, said Jiraiya's clone before punching Naruto's in the stomach, dispelling it, and after that he dispelled himself. Who are you calling an idiot? Yelled Naruto looking at Jiraiya. You see now, whatever your clone experience when they are dispelled, it's passed on to the original, said Jiraiya looking at the boy. Awesome, yelled Naruto jumping around. Okay, Naruto, since you got it, create 6 clones for training for the rest of the night, smirked Jiraiya looking at the kid. What are you the worst at in the academy? Asked Jiraiya looking at the kid. The 3 academy ninjutsus, said Naruto looking at his sensei. He did the single hand seal, then said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, and created 6 clones of himself on the spot. Send one to do the tree climbing exercise and one to run up and down the tree, said Jiraiya looking at the boy. Naruto instructed the clones to do what Jiraiya told, and he turned to look at his sensei once again. One to work on the transformation, do it until it comes natural to you. Send one to work on the replacement jutsu, and 2 to do like the tree climbing, 1 running, 1 walking, said Jiraiya looking at the kid. What do I do? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei. You are going to meditate, said Jiraiya looking at the kid. Okay, where? Asked Naruto looking at his sensei. Right where you are, kid, said Jiraiya getting in his meditation sitting position. Sensei, why do people meditate? Asked Naruto getting in the sitting position. Because it takes away stress and it also relaxes the mind, making a person's reflex quicker and you can sense the things around you, said Jiraiya looking at the boy before closing his eyes. Naruto did the same and they stayed like that for the next 3 hours while the clones worked on chakra control and mastering 2 of the Academy 3 ninjutsus. The next day, Naruto was asleep when the clones dispelled, so it was now that he was getting the experience of the training from yesterday. He could feel that his chakra control has improved a lot. He tried the transformation jutsu and he got it right on his first try and it was perfect. He decided to try the replacement jutsu and he could replace himself with little fluffy fox toy that was in the corner of his room on the first try. Naruto was happy, but as he learned from his meditation yesterday, he wasn't supposed to get mad or excited over every little thing. He still decided to jump around before he went to do his physical workout. Naruto went downstairs to the training ground and Jiraiya still wasn't awake yet, so he decided to let him get some sleep. Here we go, said Naruto, stretching before he could start to do him workout. Naruto finished stretching and started doing the push-ups. His gravity seal was still on, so he was getting the maximum effect of the physical workout. He did 100 sit-up, then he did 100 pull-ups. Naruto finished with the physical workout and decided to get a lap around the compound before taking a shower. He did the lap and went inside to take a shower. After taking a shower, Naruto took out his clothes to get ready for school. He put his clothes on, then looked in the mirror to see how the clothes looked on him, and he was satisfied about what he saw. His body didn't have any more baby fat since he had to work on that every morning, so the fishnet shirt stayed on him perfectly. He wrapped the bandages around his ankle and put his kunai holder on his right tight and went downstairs to get some breakfast before leaving. Naruto walked to the academy fast because he was going to be late. After taking all that time to look at himself in the mirror, he didn't want to run so the people would not get suspicious about his speed. As soon as he got to the academy, he transformed himself to look like the old Naruto did to ask Sakura out to see if he was going to get lucky after all that time. Naruto walked in the classroom and Iruka stopped him and the students started laughing at him. "Naruto, where have you been and you're late?" yelled Iruka with his big scary head jutsu. "I woke up late," said Naruto looking at his sensei. "Where have you been?" asked Iruka looking at the boy. "It's a secret, Iruka sensei," said Naruto rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. "Take a seat," said Iruka. Naruto looked around the room to see his friends and his crush. Sakura Haruno was Sasuke's fangirl. He knew that, but he still liked her. She was book smart, and had no real skills even though she beat him up pretty good. She did not like him one bit. To her, Sasuke was better than all the guys in the class, even though Sasuke never even bothered to acknowledge her. Ino was another fangirl, but she had a little skill. She was mean to Naruto but not like Sakura, and she was very bossy. Shikamaru was one of Naruto's best friends now since he knew his secret and never told anyone. He was the laziest kid on the planet as far as Naruto knew, since he's been getting the minimum passing score on every exam so that he wouldn't have to show his thinking ability, so people wouldn't ask him to do anything troublesome. Naruto and Shikamaru skipped school sometimes to go watch clouds. Shikamaru was sometimes his lookout when pulling pranks around the school. So he decided to sit by Shikamaru. After asking Sakura out for one more time, he decided that if she declined him, he would give up on her. Sakura-chan, said Naruto blushing. "What baka?" yelled Sakura looking at him. "I was wondering if you wanted to go on a date with me," said Naruto smiling at her. "Hell no, baka," yelled Sakura, punching him back to the nearest wall. Naruto dropped the transformation jutsu in a poof of smokes, and he wasn't concentrating at the time, so he stopped suppressing his chakra, and everyone knew that no academy student should have that much energy. After the smoke was gone, everybody started looking Naruto's way to see what happened. They were surprised to see now a taller Naruto, his hair wilder and longer, wearing some black shinobi pants, his ankle wrapped in bandage, and his toned body under the shirt. Hinata started blushing before she fainted. She was standing up so she was about to fall on the ground before Iruka held her up. Naruto took a seat by the boys in the back, talking to Shikamaru, who wasn't surprised since he saw him in the Hokage's office the day before. "Shikamaru, what's up?" said Naruto looking at his friend. "Why did you do that?" asked Shikamaru looking at his friend. "I wanted to ask her out one last time," laughed Naruto looking at his friend. "Last time?" said Choji eating his chips. "Yeah, I realize that she doesn't like me, so I won't waste my time with her," said Naruto looking at the big boy. "I can't believe I thought she was cute. Look at that forehead," laughed Naruto loud enough so she could hear him. Sakura started crying because she was giving all her attention to Sasuke, but she enjoyed the attention she was getting from Naruto since he was the only one who never made fun of her about her look. "What the hell happened to Naruto? He want me to kick his butt again," thought Sakura angrily. Sakura got up and walked toward Naruto, thinking he's going to quickly apologize when he sees her face. Naruto sensed her coming like he learned from his sensei Jiraiya. He got up and turned to look at her with a smile, while the other boys was laughing. Mizuki saw this as an opportunity to make the demon brat get beat up again, so he was looking at the situation with a smirk. Baka, apologized to me right now, demanded Sakura with her red with anger. But Sakura-chan, pleaded Naruto laughing. Now Baka, yelled Sakura glaring at him. I don't think so, your forehead is big right, said Naruto turning serious. Apologize Baka, yelled Sakura glaring at the boy. Okay, I'm sorry your forehead is so big, said Naruto sitting down. Do you want me to beat you up again? Yelled Sakura glaring at the boy. Class, it's time for our taijutsu practice, said Mizuki getting up from his seat. Everybody made their way outside for the day's taijutsu practice. Sakura was smirking knowing that she was going to get Naruto and she finally have another chance to impress her precious Sasuke-kun. Naruto was smiling knowing that Sakura was thinking that he still couldn't move properly and that he was an easy target like last time they fought. Sasuke was smirking knowing that he had another victim. After seeing Naruto walk in the room, he wanted to fight him to show that he was still the better one in the class. Naruto versus Sakura. You two please step up, said Mizuki smirking. I will get you Baka, smirked Sakura walking toward the middle of the academy training ground. Are you both ready? Asked Mizuki looking at Sakura. Yes, said Sakura getting in the taijutsu style taught at the academy. Naruto nodded and got in the style Jiraiya taught him at the compound. Go, said Mizuki looking at Naruto. That's not what I taught him, thought Mizuki looking at the boy with hate. Here I come Baka, yelled Sakura running toward Naruto like she did in the first fight. Same move, said Naruto stepping out the way of the punch she sent toward him. Sakura sent another punch toward Naruto and he just jumped out the way by jumping in the air and doing a flip back then falling on both his feet. Sakura sent a kick at him then a punch at the boy but Naruto was dodging them and she lost her balance then fell on the ground flat on her face. Sasuke was looking at him angry since Naruto wasn't that good last time and if Naruto improved then he had to test himself against him. Sakura got up and dusted herself up and she was getting angry not being able to land a single hit on the boy that she just promised and kicking too. She went at him with a kick and punch combo but Naruto dodged every single one of them with ease with some slow movement. Naruto decided to end the fight and axe kicked Sakura in the torso sending her crashing to the ground with a little blood coming out her mouth. She was now really pissed off with her inner self screaming. She got up and she ran toward Naruto and punched him across the training field. He got up and dusted himself up and she was already in front of him ready to pound him to the ground. She threw a punch at him but Naruto said, Kawarimi no Jutsu, replacement jutsu, and replaced himself with a log which got completely destroyed. Naruto came out from behind a tree and looked at the girl smiling. Sakura ran toward him, but he suddenly disappeared and Sakura hit nothing but the tree. Seems like I have to get serious huh, said Naruto appearing behind her. Come here so I can kick your Naruto, yelled Sakura. She ran toward him again with a punch headed for his face but he ducked and punched her in the stomach making a little blood come out of her mouth due to the intensity of the punch. She backed up and Naruto got up and kneed her in the stomach then he punched her right on the nose knocking her out instantly. Winner Uzumaki Naruto, said Iruka smiling at the boy. Naruto, who taught this taijutsu style to you? Asked Mizuki giving him a fake smile. I learned it myself, lied Naruto looking back at the man. You lying, yelled Mizuki looking at him. Why does it matter to you? Said Naruto looking at him. Shikamaru gave up against Sasuke, Kiba beat Ino, Shino beat Choji and everybody continued to practice the academy style except for Naruto who was doing his own thing in the back. After the taijutsu practice the class went on to throwing practice. They all had pretty good accuracy since Naruto trained with his godfather in that area for the past week. Shikamaru was the only one who didn't even bother trying saying that it was a drag to do it. It was time to go back to the classroom for the history part of the class. Naruto was paying close attention even though his head wasn't letting him since Iruka made the explanation extra boring. Shikamaru was besides him sound asleep. he followed his head and fell asleep on the desk beside Shikamaku. The bell rung and they knew it was now lunchtime, and the boys had a special place to eat, which was on the roof of the academy away from the girls. Even Shino was on the roof when it was lunchtime. The only one of the boys who wasn't there was Sasuke, because he preferred to be alone. Today Kiba stayed in the courtyard of the academy wanting to get some play from Hinata. They went to the top of the academy and Shikamaru quickly got in his cloud watching position. "Guys, I want you to meet somebody," said Naruto, taking out a kunai. "You're not going to kill us, are you?" said Shikamaru, laughing.